Hey, welcome back. On today's episode, I'm going to show you guys how to make these dope cheese Danishes. As always, the recipe will be below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's just hop right in it. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is make our butter slab and put that in the freezer. So there's multiple ways to do this, or I should say two. You can do it on parchment paper or plastic wrap. Personally, I prefer plastic wrap. But if you would rather do it on parchment, just throw down a dust of flour, so that way the butter doesn't get stuck to the parchment, but I feel like it doesn't really get stuck to the plastic wrap. So take a knife or bench scraper, bowl scraper, and we're just gonna go ahead and cut these probably into thirds. Your 8 ounces, right? Unless you're doubling the recipe, then you need to make a pound of it, right? We're trying to get these as even as possible. If they don't, we're just rolling it out and making a big square or rectangle. So don't overthink it, don't stress it. Okay, then we're gonna go ahead and put a parchment paper on top. If you're using parchment, throw a little bit of flour on there. If not, plastic wrap, I feel just like pulls right off of it. And then take your rolling pin and just go ahead and form this into a rectangle. Just so that way it's all combined and squished together, because we're gonna put this in the freezer and then we're gonna do like a book method to make our Danish dough. Okay, now that you have your butter all formed, we're gonna pop this as flat as we can into the freezer until it freezes through, right? So I just put mine on a sheet pan, cookie sheet or whatever, just make sure it doesn't get all wobbly, because then it's gonna throw off when we do our book method. All right, you can always set that butter slab up the day before, multiple days before. Butter's gonna freeze indefinitely, so don't worry about it. Okay, now we gotta go ahead, and while that's freezing, we're gonna go ahead and make our dough. So we need to bloom our yeast. So we're gonna take, depending on if you're doing single, double, the most I've ever made with this is ×4. You're gonna go ahead and take your milk and bring that up to like a lukewarm, just slightly warm, so that way we can bloom our yeast. This doesn't have any water in it, so we're gonna bloom it with milk. While our milk is warming up, let's measure out our yeast. Into our mixing bowl, just make this as least dirty as possible, less dishes to clean up. So I got a 1.5 teaspoons. And a small pinch of sugar. Help kickstart that yeast a little bit. And then in a separate bowl that we're gonna add to our yeast and liquid, you wanna get together the rest of the sugar, outside the pinch of sugar, your flour, salt, and then grab an egg from the fridge, but obviously that's behind. And put that in a bowl and get that ready. I'm gonna take out my cream cheese and let that start coming up to room temp, so that way we can beat it and make that after we make our book, so that way it's ready to go. You can always make that a day or two ahead as well. It'll hold for like a week or two. Okay, my milk heated up in like 3 minutes. Once again, make sure it's not too hot, otherwise you're gonna kill this yeast and it's not gonna bump. Proof. Technical terms by Jonathan. Take your dough hook and just kind of like make sure none of the yeast is stuck to the bottom, and that way it all blooms at the same time. Cool, we're just gonna let this sit for, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 minutes and let that bloom. Okay, it's been about 7-ish minutes. My yeast is broken down, it's no longer beady, so we're gonna go ahead and add the rest of our ingredients. So depending on what size of batch you're making, add your egg, along with the rest of your dry ingredients. I like to take my dough hook and kind of just bring it together. And then we're just gonna go ahead and run this on the machine for 2 or 3 minutes. We're gonna let it rest, and then we're gonna run it again for about 3 to 5. Okay, my dough's come together. I'm just gonna kind of scrape the bowl and then let it rest for 3 to 5 minutes, and then we're gonna run it for another 5. Okay, now that it's been rested, I'm gonna throw it on the machine on medium speed for 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, after your dough's been mixed and it's nice, smooth, and elastic, I want you to flour your table and just work it for like another 30-ish seconds on your table. Okay, make sure some flour's underneath it, and we're gonna use that same bowl we made it in, put it over it, and let it rest for at least 20 minutes up to 30. We just want it nice and not dense and tight, because we're gonna roll it out, and we don't want it to pull back when we roll it out. Okay, now that it is rested, it's gonna bounce a little bit back, right? It's nice and it's not dense anymore. And we're gonna go ahead and roll this out to the length of our butter square. And then we're going to go ahead and start our trifold method, and just kind of like a croissant, to make a bunch of layers. So now that we got it, the length of it, right, we want to make sure it's long enough so that way we can do a trifold. As you roll it out, you kind of want to make sure it's, it doesn't have to be perfect, but, you know, kind of square it out here a little bit. That'll make, for a better yield when we go and cut it and shape them. The corner pieces, sometimes you got to toss them because the butter didn't get in there and we don't got a nice layer in it. So I find squaring it out now helps for later. So, you know, something like this, not looking for perfection. We're going to put another 2 turns into it after this. So I like to hang on to my plastic wrap because when we put this in the fridge to let it rest, I just use that plastic wrap to rewrap it. Okay, so remember, every time we roll this out, we want to make sure we turn it and then refold it the opposite way, because otherwise the layers won't stack correctly. So turn it, right? Cool, now that we've got it rolled out, we just want to go ahead and do another trifold. You want to shoot for that it doesn't like overhang too much, right? Because then otherwise your layers aren't going to stack. So just boom, kind of square this out here. And then boom, square this out here. Cool. So from here, we're going to go ahead and put it onto our tray. You can put parchment down, I just flour it. Cover it with plastic wrap so that way it doesn't dry out. And then we're gonna pop it in the fridge and let it rest for 30, 45 minutes, and then we're gonna put our next turn in. The best recipe I like for my jams is pretty much every pound of fruit. You have 1 tablespoon of lemon and a cup of sugar. If you use pectin, stop making jam. Just kidding. You use pectin just to maximize your yield. You're missing out on so much flavor. Go ahead and let this cook down like, I don't know, I'm gonna let it cook down here in the back for at least like an hour and a half to 2.5 hours, because that's how much more time I got on these Danishes anyways. I have some garden fresh strawberries, and I'm just gonna go ahead and start this jam. Cool, so we're just gonna simmer this on the back pot for like 2.5, 3 hours. I guess technically it'd be more of a reduction than a strawberry jam. I could go ahead and do my cream cheese right now, but I'm almost about to do my second turn, so I'm gonna do that in between my second and third turn. Okay, it's been resting for half an hour in the fridge, and so we're gonna repeat the same step. We're gonna go ahead and flour our table, roll it out, and make another trifold. When rolling these out, you always want to make sure that your bottom of your fold, right, is on the bottom, because otherwise when we roll it out, it's going to like, it's just going to mess it all up. So always make sure that's on the bottom. See, much easier than the first time. And then we're just going to go ahead and do our trifold. We're going to try and square this off if possible again. And then we're gonna go ahead and put it back on our tray, wrap it, and put it in our fridge and let it rest for another half an hour before we put our next turn in. Okay, while our Danish dough is resting in between our turns, I'm gonna go ahead and make our cream cheese filling. Quick and easy, all we're gonna do is break down our cream cheese and our sugar and our salt, and we're just gonna beat that like crazy. If we gotta scrape it a couple times to get the sugar off the bottom and the cream cheese off the bottom, we will. And then we're gonna go ahead and add our egg yolk after. So go ahead and we're gonna do our cream cheese and sugar and let that go along with our salt. Go ahead and scrape off the bottom, right? Now that our sugar's all broken down, we're gonna add our egg yolk. As before, let's just make sure we scrape the bottom and get all the sugar and cream cheese incorporated along with the yolk. Sweet, nice and smooth, no big chunks in here. This is really gonna come out well on top of our Danish. So we can just put this aside until we need it for later. You can make your cream cheese filling a few days ahead, but you do want to bake it at room temp, which is why it's only 3 ingredients, so that's why I throw it together right before we make it. But if you make it prior, just pull it out of the fridge and let it come up to room temp prior to baking your Danish. Okay, it's been another 30 minutes in the fridge, so we're gonna put in our third turn now. Cool, quick and easy. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it, put it in the fridge, let it rest for another 30 minutes, and then our fourth and final tri-book fold. Okay, it's rested again for another half an hour, so we're gonna go ahead and put our fourth and final turn in. with this last one, we definitely want to try and square it off as much as possible. After this, we're just going to roll out just a little bit. We're not going to and then we're going to cut them through and then shape our Danish. So I just like to take an extra second and really square off this last one. And as you could have guessed, we're going to let this rest for another half an hour and then cut it, shape it, and then proof our Danish. Okay, our 4 turns are in. It's been rested. Let's go ahead and shape this and then let's get it proofing. Okay, so I don't want you to roll this out super thin, but because it's still you can unfold this, right? We need to push this together a little bit. Roll this just a little bit together. So very lightly, I'm just gonna kind of just give it a little bit of a roll here, like so. Not much more than that. I'm actually gonna flip it and just do one on each side too. Cool. I'm gonna square this out. You're gonna go ahead and want to put a piece of parchment down on a cookie tray, sheet tray, whatever you're gonna bake it on or proof it on, proof and bake on. Okay, depending on how big you want these and what size you're looking for, I usually cut these about, I want to say 1/2 inch to 3/4 inches, right? So we're gonna go ahead and just cut strips about 3/4 of an inch. Okay, and then you're gonna hold them on both sides and just kind of tap it on the table and stretch at the same time, just a little bit. Right? Can kind of pull it apart just a hair here. And with one hand, you're gonna hold one side and just twist. Twist with both hands or one side. So we get it like that, right? Nice and twisty. Okay. Now I like to use the tail end, the part that's the bottom of it, and you slightly pinch down, right? And you spin it around that base and create a base out of it, like so, right? And we're gonna take our tail here and tuck it and just pinch a hair, like so. Now we don't have to bake all of these off. These will you can pop these in the freezer and pull them and bake as wanted or as needed, however you want to do it. So one more time, right? And then stretch just a little bit, right? Pinch the bottom and twist around. Now remember, this is gonna proof out, so no need to stress if you have a little bit of gap here. It'll all fill in here once we proof them. You can use these end pieces, but this is what I was talking about when cornering it off every single time, because your 2 end pieces are gonna be a little funky because it's not gonna have the layers that all the other ones did with butter. But that still doesn't mean it's not gonna be delicious. Okay, because we're gonna put plastic wrap on these and proof them at home versus in a proofer. You want to make sure that you spray the top of them, because otherwise when they proof, they'll stick to the plastic, and then when we pull the plastic off, they'll pop and deflate, which is obviously would be really frustrating after the super long process of making these. And when you cover them, you want to cover them lightly because they need to grow, so definitely don't make them all super tight on there. And proof them for about 45 minutes until they at least double, if not triple in size. Okay, these have more than doubled in size. So we're gonna turn our oven on to 375. And while that's preheating, let's go ahead and egg wash this and put our cream cheese filling in between each one. So we don't really want to egg wash the dead center of it because that's where our cream cheese filling is going to go. And if you put too much egg wash in the middle, it might just slide off, which is obviously not what we're looking for. So when we're egg washing, let's just try to egg wash the outside layer of it. And if some gets in the middle, like that's fine, don't worry about it, but just do your best. Okay, now that we've egg washed them all, what we're gonna do is just this center, we're gonna go ahead and make a little dam. So what I want you to do is just kind of using your fingers, just go ahead and maybe we could spray our fingers with a little bit of non-stick so that way it doesn't stick. And we're just gonna make a little bit of a dam here right in the middle. Kind of open it up like so. Now that we got a dam, we're gonna go ahead and take our cream cheese filling we made, right? And we're just gonna put it right in the middle here, just like so. So let's go ahead and make a dam in between each one, and then we're gonna drop our cream cheese filling in between each one. By then, our oven should be heated up and we can pop them in. Okay, these need to bake for about 20 minutes. So we're gonna bake them at 375 for 7 to 10, depending on what size you have them. Mine are a little on the smaller size, so I'm gonna bake them for 7, and then another 13 behind. Every oven's gonna be different. You know, these might take 25 to 30 in your oven. But yeah, I'm shooting for 20 to 25. So 375, 5 to 7 minutes, and then another 15 to ish until they're done. So let's go ahead and pop them in, and here we go. All right, these took about 25 to 30 minutes inside my oven, and these turned out great. Definitely gonna tear into these here in a few minutes. And I'm gonna top them with the strawberry jam we made. Here's that jam that was sitting on the back. Nice and cooled down. If you made it this far, don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment on what you'd like to see next. Catch you on the next one.